Get ready, because here comes what could be the heat of the event. John Florence, he has been ruling through the rounds, throwing down some big turns, but it's undeniable. Stuart Kennedy has been surfing with a little extra speed, throwing down some really fast wraps, riding some pretty unique equipment, and we're set for a good battle for that last semi-final berth. John will be wearing the red jersey. Stu will be in the blue. Ronnie Blakey with Ross Williams, and Ross, Stu getting started early.
And here he goes. Another thing Stuart's been doing really well is finding those waves that have a big old wall. And trippy turn there to start with, but again, risky. And he's been doing a great mix-up of a carve straight into a tail slide. He's adding a lot of riding. And the judges like that. They appreciate when you keep them on their toes. And again, look at this, all the way through the inside, staying very busy. So I don't think it's going to be an excellent score, but it's going to be a keeper for him, and the advantage right away goes to Stewie.
And he has been in a couple of absolute doozy situations in this event, coming up against Kelly Slater and Gabriel Medina, and staying extremely composed, as we see John now with a good-looking wall. He's got a big carving roundhouse, but these are pretty flat sections, so not really able to lean into that maneuver as hard as he would like. I think John's probably got my favourite carve on tour. So long and drawn out, but then just the way he whips his body just coils up so well.
And original. A lot of the guys on tour, everyone's so good that they start to surf like each other. It's contagious, but not the case for John. He really has his own mark on the wall. As you said, he gets extended, has that little whip through his carves.
Well, out the back, Stu Kennedy using priority on this one. Has a good section to work with from the top of the point, and leans into a couple of solid turns. So needs to link this section together. Bit of foam on the face to deal with. This wave might give him a little more on the outside, but he's going to kick out. And just behind him, John Florence. Some foam on the face from that bigger first set that Stu Kennedy rode through the inside. But John's still getting some work done. Pacing himself. Hasn't had the opportunity yet to really throw something big down. So happy to just chip away at this wave. And he kicks out on the inside.
Well, we want to see what happened on the outside section. We heard the crowd go ballistic. Stewie was on the first wave, John was on the second wave. We know usually that second wave is a little shallower on the bank. Let's see what happened, Ronnie. And there it is, big old tail waft. And this offshore wind, you would think it's going to be tough to pull off aerial maneuvers, but John is one of those guys today that can huck his tail towards the beach. So even though the wind is offshore, he can get away with it. I don't see Stuart Kennedy do that type of air as much, so that's a little bit of an advantage for John. So a nice start for him. Big aggressive move. The judges always like when you make a statement to start the wave, but obviously this thing fizzled a bit. And that'll keep the score just in that medium range. This wave was a straight Dreamweaver. Beautiful wall there, but I feel like he toned it back just a little bit. Went for those snaps. I thought for sure, I'm thinking Stewie said, you know what, this wave's gonna double up. So I don't wanna fall. I don't wanna give it 110% on that first or second turn. But unfortunately for Stuart, that thing went out to sea.
I think you're spot on too, because it's rare to get a wave that deep. Well, John Florence gets a 6.67. Stu Kennedy banks a 4.83. So Kennedy now in second spot after a 4.68. Let's check in with Pete Mel.
And I think this event really sets the tone for the world title race. And you guys have mentioned on the broadcast that whoever does well in this event actually goes on to challenge for the world title or win the world title. I think you mentioned 60% of winners of this event in the past have won the world title.
That was 50 for the men and then 60 for the women, but overall you're absolutely right. And you were able to sustain 4 world titles in a row. What is the recipe to make something like that happen? Because it seems so difficult.
And I think the secret of what's going on here, it's not just the boards. I think Stu is actually reading the wave really well. and he knows when to slow down and when to slow up, and he's just doing the right manoeuvres in the right part of the wave, and he's not actually forcing it. And I think that's the secret to surfing snapper, is like letting the wave dictate what you actually do, not trying to overpower the wave.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your insight, Mark. You are a true legend.
All right, thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. Mark Richards, still surfing, still shaping. Get yourself one of those retro 20s. They're a must-have for any quiver. But John Florence, since we went to that interview, someone set him on fire, and he has taken the lead, and he's just put together, I think, the best ride of this heat.
Yeah, he seems to be in great rhythm, isn't he, Ronnie? You know, as soon as he paddled back out to the top, a nice wave came right there for him. And I give John a lot of credit. See how small this wave is? He had a great beat on this wave that it was going to have an inside section. See that wall, that lip line right there? That's always going to be the keys to an exciting maneuver. If you can get a little bit of feedback there, something that you can tap off of, right there again, he hit the lip 3 or 4 times. Even though it was a smaller wave, he was working with it. And this was a really nice section right here. Whips it in the tail. A little bit of offshore wind there, hung him up for a second. But he backed it up again with some creative maneuver on the inside. So again, he stomps on the tail, wiping the speed off, waiting for this money section. And there's that offshore wind type of air where he just hucks the tail towards the beach to, you know, make sure that wind doesn't blow the board away.
He was almost lucky that he regained control of that air, because his board was, you could see it wanted to fly away. We saw it from Chloe Andino on his last ride, just before the hooter sounded in quarterfinal number 3. He went in air reverse and it went horribly wrong. His board ended up underneath him as he fell. But let's have another look at it.
One thing that John does so well is he never, rarely does he go for a grab. He likes to just kind of keep his body extended. Remember, he's very tall, but it's amazing the agility he has and the reflexes. He always just grabs the board with it looks like it's pinky toe and fishes that thing back under his feet. Sometimes he'll wipe that front foot all the way to the nose of the board. And it's all natural for him. You know, it doesn't seem orchestrated. He just reacts.
A heat score total of 15.9. Stu Kennedy, he's gone 16 plus a couple of times. 16.8 against Medina in round 3. 17.67 in yesterday afternoon's effort against Sebastian Zietz.
I think, let's see, John likes the look of this insider right here, Ronnie. It might double up for him.
This is the bead Durbidge strategy coming into play. John employing bead to work with him on this contest and trying to get some more flow in his surfing. And he flows around a large section there, but this wave, it's a fizzer.
Yeah, that one bent out to sea, didn't have that big steep wall.
He has the second highest heat score total behind Felipe Toledo, 17.67, and he's using priority here. This might be the wave that helps him get his heat really rolling. Strong first turn. This wave's starting to flatten out a bit, and Stu, well, he's going to commit to it. Transitioning down the line, hoping this thing walls up. It actually looks pretty good from where we're standing. Banking off the foam. This wave is going to link through to the inside, but Stu needs to get some speed going. This board's been fast throughout. He won't make that next section. It gets an okay finish. It might be his best wave, looking to do better than a 4.83 to shorten the requirement. He waits to get on the back of the ski there.
Well, you know, he needed to try and suck the energy out of this heat and put it back in his corner. You know, John's kind of owned this heat right from the get-go. So, you know, I just always think it's interesting, the psychology battle that happens in heats, who kind of owns the air out there. And, you know, right now Stuart really needs to get that back in his favor. So more aggression on that first opening turn. That's what we've been seeing from Stuart this entire event. So I like the fact that he's being more aggressive. Unfortunately for Stuart, this wave started bending out to sea, so he's going to those clean wraps. But he is keeping, you know, just that magical flow. I don't think I've seen him dig rail more than once or twice this entire event. And he does finish it off, but, you know, I don't think it's going to match John's 7.3, but it should, you know, it's definitely going to make his requirement a lot lower than a 9. I think that's smart. It's the last hour and a half, it seems like the best waves have been where John is, further down. There is a reverse rip, and a pretty solid score is dropped on it.
6.9 for Stu Kennedy. The judges really rewarding that first maneuver.
He's got to make the right decision. You know, you don't want to just go ahead and hand the keys over to Stewie. And here he goes.
Under a minute remaining. John Florence looking to improve on a 6.67. Stu Kennedy, he's looking for an opportunity out the back at the moment. And John, will he get the connection through to the inside? He's not going to, so we'll throw the camera on Stu Kennedy and see what he can do with this ride. Chasing a pretty solid score, 7.11. Ripping into this wave now as it lines up through to the inside. Nice carve there, drives off the bottom again. A little sticky off the top on that maneuver, but recovers well and starting to really line up on the inside. And Stu Kennedy, he's getting out some reps here, going to that rail a number of times, not finished yet, bringing it through to the inside. This wave still providing, and Stu Kennedy on the attack.
Wow. And, you know, seconds before he caught that wave, you know, John, you didn't want to hand over the keys, and he sure did. The second wave had less water on the bank. That thing bottomed out, and that was that clean wall that Stewie was looking for. It gave him that opportunity.
This kid's heart must be thumping out of his chest at the moment, because he would be gassed from riding that wave. He had, I don't even know how many turns, probably over 10 maneuvers on this ride.
And the judges are going to pick apart the best turns. They don't care if you do 100 turns. You got to get points with some commitment. And, you know, a couple of flat turns, so that's not going to really get the judges excited. You could feel the nerves. He had one really big section here, and he goes for a carve down. It was smooth, it was nice, it was strong, but it definitely wasn't super exciting. So right here, he's thinking, shoot, I got to spice it up a little bit here if I'm going to get a 7. Wow. And he does. You can see he starts honing in on being a little more aggressive and slotting the tail. Honestly, if I had to take a guess, you know, this is very borderline. You know, he was just a little bit tentative on the outside of this wave. If he gets a score, it's right around that number, right around a 7, 7.5. It's not going to be like an 8, 5, or a 9. There's no way.
The judges are making some comparisons at the moment. I mean, there's a lot more height in John's wave. The wall is tall, but he had a bit of downtime before he got to this section on the inside. And we're waiting on the numbers to come through now, and they are looking pretty good for Kennedy. As we see the replay there, Stu Kennedy, an 8.33.
Wow.
He moves into the lead, and he is going on to the semi-finals. John Florence knocked out of the contest, and Stu Kennedy will battle Kaloe Andino for a spot in the final. The injury replacement finding a magic ride through the inside.